Here you have a surprisingly challenging question. And when you have a complicated word problem, you want to be really clear on what the variables are. So R is the number of miles that she ran, and B is the number of miles that she biked. So what makes this question not your regular system of equations is that you have the distance, you have the speed, and you also have talk about the hours. So we're talking about distance equals rate times time. And let's say this is pertaining to the running, and this is pertaining to the biking. So she ran R miles, and the speed is 5 miles per hour, and the T is the time running. Let's call that T1. And she biked B miles, and that was at 10 miles per hour, and we don't know that amount of time. So now it makes a little more sense when the question tells us she biked for twice as many hours as she ran. So it would be really tempting to say B equals 2R, but those are not the hours, those are the miles. So that would actually be wrong. So let's write that here. Hours, not miles. Instead, this sentence right here is basically telling us that T2 is twice T1 because that's the amount of time that she biked, and the other one is the amount of time that she ran. So instead of this equation, it should be T2 equals 2 T1. So right now we've got another set of variables there. And there's another equation. She ran and biked a total of 200 miles. So R plus B equals 200. So what we can say this is an entire mess of variables and equations. But the rule is actually that if the number of variables equals the number of equations, this can be solved, and this can be solved. So let's kind of take our time with this. If R plus B is 200, R is 5T1, B is 10T2, and put together that's 200. And now we have two equations that we can solve out. If T2 is equal to 2 times T1, I'm just kind of putting a little note so when we look at this later, we know what happened. But T2 can be replaced with 2 T1. So 5 T1 plus 10 times T2, which is 2 T1, equals 200. Just simplifying that out, 5T1 plus 20T1 is 200. 25T1 is 200. T1 is 8. 200 divided by 25. And now we can little by little start solving for everything else. T2 is 2T1. So just bringing this equation over. And now that we know T1, we can say this is 8. Fill everything else in. T2 is 2 times 8, which is 16. So that right there is the number of hours biking. And what we need is the number of miles biking. So next, we're going to take this equation that we have here, because B is the number of miles biking. And B is 10T2. And we just figured out T2 was 16. So that's 10 times 16, and that's 160. And our answer to this wonderful question is D.